everybody, my name is Amazon Rex and welcome to my first ever Minecraft video. This video is just a quick little show and tell of one of my first big creative builds in the game, but before we jump into that, just wanted to do a quick little blurb about me and about the build itself. So I've been playing Minecraft for about 10 years now, mostly in survival, but I've played a few of the mods that are out there. I've been wanting to do kind of a big creative build, but the slash commands just didn't click for me, which is kind of funny because I am a programmer in my day job. But it wasn't until I saw the Axiom mod in action that I actually wanted to try doing a big build, so here we are. So the story behind the build is that of a wandering botanist who has been traveling and came across a village where they heard rumors of an old house in the woods where a magical experiment went wrong. Some of the villagers were discussing some of the weird plants that started growing around the house, and the botanist, being naturally curious, went to go investigate. They found that the house was surrounded by a large amount of plant life, both kind of natural and otherworldly, and that the house itself was relatively safe, so they decided to set up shop to study the strange plant life that was left over from the magical accident. So enough about all that, let's get to the build, shall we? So here you can see that we have a nice little worn stone path with some nice little custom trees leading all the way up here to the house. You can see that there's a lot of vegetation going on around here, some weird plants, some skulk kind of growing up the side, along with two kind of big trees here, one pink, one yellow. I did want to use some of the kind of stranger blocks or blocks that you don't see very often in Minecraft builds. The nether brick blocks being one of them. We do have a lot of variety with them. We have the walls, we have the stairs, we have the slabs, we have the blocks themselves. So I thought it would be nice to kind of throw them in there and use them as the tree trunks for these big trees here. Moving on to the house itself, it is a 3-story house. I wanted to use this light blue terracotta. Again, that's another block that I don't see used very often in the game and other people's builds, because it's kind of a boring color, isn't it? It's just, is it really light blue? It looks more purple, mauve. I don't know, but I wanted to try using it, and it was kind of difficult to use a good ombre from going from like the darker basalt all the way up to here. I'm pleased with how this came out, and it actually looks really good with the more turquoise color blocks like this warp block, the copper blocks, and it looks pretty good with the mud blocks too. So walking around, like I said, we have some weird vegetation. As we get kind of closer to the house, we see more kind of nethery type of blocks with the warp nylium. We have the warp fungus. I wanted to get kind of a slow and steady type of transition from the normal, pretty, natural vegetation and start kind of like, oh, this looks kind of weird, and then it gets kind of funkier as you get closer to the house. I just want to walk you all through the garden here. This is based upon a garden near my hometown. I don't want to say where exactly it is, but it's a garden. You park up top, and then the garden kind of slopes down where you have different levels full of different plants. So we got a level here that is just more trees, grass, and then we get into the flowers. Another level down, we have more flowers, so on and so forth. Walking through the garden, you can kind of see the different colors and the different levels, and it's just a really nice sight to take in. Looking more closely at the trees, I wanted to add, this was kind of an experimental thing, to be honest with you. As you can see, there are some kind of odd blocks in here, like we've got the hanging signs in here, we got some banners. Let me see if I can find, we do have some candles kind of hanging out, maybe not in this tree, but definitely up here. We have some coral blocks hanging out in the trees as well, with some waterlogged mangrove roots, just to kind of give a little bit, just kind of go a little bit of extra texture throughout. We got plenty of glass blocks. I've seen those in big tree builds before. We got the candles as well, just to kind of give something a little interesting more to the negative space. So another interesting thing, going back to Big Blue, which is what I have named this tree back here just now, literally, you can see that there's a hole in the back of the house over here where the tree branches kind of busted through. We'll see that a little bit more once we get into the house. But again, I wanted to convey that this house was old, it was dilapidated, nobody's been taking care of it. So again, walking through the garden, you'll be able to see that the skulk has started to spread out. Again, some of the weird vegetation, and there's this rift in the floor, possibly left over from some of the magical experiments. Of course, we have the borderless glass giving us that kind of cool fog effect that has been, that's people have done that. This has been done. It's nothing novel. I just wanted to try it myself as well. I thought it'd be kind of a cool little bit of flavor to add to the build. Going around, we've got more garden. Oh, I wanted to address, where are you? Aha. So these are actually petripod plants. So the flowers themselves are technically 2 blocks tall, 1.5. But as I noticed as these were growing, they kind of turned into these big turnip looking things. So I ended up putting, a piece of string. There's so much string in this build. I ended up just putting a piece of string over this. And they, like I said, they look like giant turnips. I think this would be fun to use in like a farm build or a garden build. Coming up here, we've got a little waterfall area coming out of the hills surrounding the build with a fun little water feature that just goes over here, provides a little bit of something interesting to look at when looking at the build from above. So over here I built a small gazebo just to add another point of interest to the garden. There's a nice candlelit table and a couple of chairs to sit and, relax and enjoy the view of the flowers. And over here, going away from the gazebo and back onto the main little garden path, we have this little man-made pond over here with some tropical fish and some little mangrove propagules. Full disclosure, I did have some of these grow on me. I forgot to place the string on top of them. I would go and do something else, maybe working on a tree or going to work on the greenhouse and come back and there's, a giant mangrove tree growing out of my pond. And nobody wants that. I do like how they look in the water. I do like that we have another block that can be used in the water. It's just kind of a pain that, we have to have the string. It kind of breaks that little bit of immersion. I do have a little bench that we could sit and actually enjoy the view and see the fish and swimming around in the pond and just sit here and relax. You'll notice that the mine carts are kind of elevated. I did place them on some slabs so you can actually, sit down and look at, what's going on in the pond. If, having them a half block lower, it was kind of hard to see what was going on there. You were just staring at the stairs on the side of the pond. So one thing I forgot to mention while looking at the front of the house is the shape of the roof. When I initially sketched this up on my silly little analog sketch pad, i.e. pen and paper, I wanted to have a more curvy style roof here. You can see that there's a little bit of a curl over here, and there's one over here as well. It's something I kind of struggled with. I haven't done a lot of curves in this game. Again, all of our blocks are all 90-degree angles, so having a curve in a game like this is something kind of difficult to do. We have more flowers growing on top of it. We've got moss. We've got dying moss with the mangrove roots. We've got the rooted dirt. We have some kind of the funky little flowers and vegetation hanging out here, along with the chimney on this side. I like it well enough. My initial sketches had it a little more wonky, a little more weirdly shaped, more zigzaggy. But, it works for the build. If I could go back, I think one of the big teardown things I would do is try to make a different shape with this chimney. So anyway, we're gonna head inside the house. Let's just open the front door here. Close it. And we'll go over here. We'll cover this section first. So like I said, this house used to be where a bunch of magical experiments occurred. So, we have some different workbenches. We have a little library with some reference books and a place to sit down. This is all contained on top of that big purple rift which is a result of the magical accident that occurred a long time ago and caused this place to be abandoned. As you can see here, I have been playing around with the armor poser mod and made a little microscope to help look at some of the weird plants that have been growing around here. Anyway, continuing around the back, we've got a little desk over here with a little magnifying glass to help look at some of our plants. Got a little mug here. This was my first armor poser item that I made. Really cute. Over here, we just have a big old plant in the corner. Well, yes, I did watch the B-Dubs episode where he helped XB Crafted kind of decorate his garden area. And I've been looking for something to put in this corner. So on the off chance that B-Dubs watches this video, thank you very much. Over here, we just have a small little kitchen with a cauldron, something a little cozy. Using the Armor Poster mod again, we have just a little utensil crock with a spoon, and that's supposed to be a knife, but you know, a sword is a knife, right? Pretty much the same thing. They're both blades. That's close enough. Use your imagination. Anyway, heading up the ladder. Up here we have a little observation deck with a little bit of seating, some railing to look over and kind of witness some of the magical experiments happening below. One thing that I discovered on accident while, making this build was that you can stick decorated pots, the top of them, this little bit here, into other, you can stick them into other blocks. I have seen people kind of use that since, but I've never really seen anybody use it decoratively. So I thought that I would place these in here to maybe kind of convey some like big curtains that were covering these windows up here. You got a dead little plant. This plant's been hanging out on the second floor. Nobody's been really taking care of it, this poor guy. Over here, you can see that big blue, which again, I just literally named while recording this video, has been growing into the house, kind of busted through this corner, and is growing down to where the magical experiments used to occur. So got kind of a fun little detail. Your outside vegetation doesn't generally bust in and grow inside, so I thought that was kind of fun to do. And over here, heading back up the ladder through this trapdoor, we've got a creepy little attic. Originally, I wanted to have a more kind of modern loft. Let me see if I could get some of the screenshots up on the screen. As you can see, lots of oranges, lots of blues, some nice purple terracotta walls, but I thought that was a little too bright for what is, supposed to be a dilapidated house. So I went through, tore that all down, and turned it into this, which I really like. I like the creepy little cobwebs, I like the dark paintings, the overall just kind of darkness of this area. Just a little impromptu storage area with a bunch of chests and barrels and boxes. And over here we have a little seating area where you can, write your journal at the end of the day using the Armor Stand mod again with this ink and quill over here. And I wanted to kind of keep that room divider idea that was in the previous version of this attic with the orange and warped wood signs. But I placed this painting on here with these chains to kind of convey like, oh, this painting was too big, it's up here in storage, and we don't want it really leaning on anything, so they have it hanging from the ceiling. But also using this as a room divider for this little section over here with a comfy little fireplace, some little wooden logs that have been, obviously done with the Armor Poster mod, just a little bed and dresser area. Just popping back out here to the main room of the attic. We can just come out this door quick. Zoom out to see a little balcony made with alternating weathered and regular copper bulbs. And from here, we'll head on down to the greenhouse. So for the greenhouse, nothing really to write home about. Most of the exterior is made with various forms of deep slate walls. We've got little vegetable gardens hanging out here on the side. And on the interior, we have a big old flower bed here in the middle with a nice pillar, some hanging glowberries, and some miscellaneous pots, plants, workstations, shelving, and all of that. And from the greenhouse, we'll head out, take a right here, swing onto this worn little path over here to this little lake. Just a little spot to go fishing. Nothing super interesting. But when doing this lake bottom, I almost wanted it to be its own little biome, because I mean, when you think about it in real life, lake bottoms aren't exactly, the cleanest or the prettiest or the nicest looking areas. So I went kind of heavy on the grass, heavy on the mud with the muddy mangrove roots as well, some moss. And one last fun little detail I forgot to address while we were back behind the house is over here by the waterfall. There's a little cave that goes through the hills, little mine shaft with a hidden exit, out the back of the hills and then into the regular vanilla biomes. I did like that this is kind of hidden, you know, amongst all the greenery and vegetation of the hills surrounding the build, and you can kind of see the chimney peeking up over there. So just some quick statistics about the build. I used the Lightmatica mod and the schematic builder to determine that there are 8,733 different leaf blocks placed in the area, 44 different custom trees, 1,281 instances of non-leaf decorative vegetation. So we're talking about things like these, counting the coral, counting the candles, and the total amount of hours spent on this build was 77.28 hours. This took me about 4 months in real life, you know, working on the weekends, working a little bit after work. So overall, it's been a fun process. And we'll leave it with some of my favorite views in shaders. Let me know if you want to see more. This is my first time making a video, editing a video, doing all of that. So if you got to this point, thank you for watching. And if there is a next one, we'll see you there. Take care. Bye-bye.